Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Nafeesa?
Alhamdulillah, and how are you doing this 2021? Welcome to the show. It's so nice having to tap into you once again, but of course, not on a very pleasant note, should we say. There's a lot happening around us.
Very serious note indeed. But Alhamdulillah, Allah's gotten us through 2020. So, there must be hope for us. He's
Most
blessed us
definitely.
abundantly.
And I think it's about also, creating the support structures, making people understand that they're not alone. If we get together, we can kind of help each other through it. Not physically, sometimes maybe if it's just a phone call or a tap in like we're doing right now. So talk to us about the situation. I know it's not doing good out there. I mean, every single day that I get WhatsApp messages, I get this chill down my spine because there's just so much happening around us, not in very much a positive way, but then you see other people coming into play to try and actually change that factor for us, to try and give us that hope and that faith that we're looking for.
Yes, Nafeesa, Alhamdulillah, with my life coaching, it's been quite challenging, especially, that is something that we've found such a dramatic need for, because with families and homes and the whole COVID situation, it's been crazy. I think people emotionally have never, think about it. We've never been given tools to deal with something like this. Nobody said to us, this is how you're going to deal with dramatic changes. We understood illness, we understood diseases, but your freedom being snatched, your livelihoods being snatched, people just losing family members. It's been a bit much.
Yeah. And I see, you're so involved with the Hope to Heal Foundation. You've been avidly involved with that. Has that also given you a way to kind of reach out to people in the situation, especially the Muslim communities are having it very hard at this moment in time. I mean, every single day we're hearing about 40 mayats, maybe more.
Yes. The thing is, within our Muslim society, it's not just the Hope to Heal. Like my own organization, Empowering Communities, that's been pulled to a stretch. And even the Jazbia Foundation, that's actually being pulled to a stretch. How can I say the suicides within our Muslim communities is going off the rocks. Where we're fearing COVID because of people losing their jobs, our Muslim brothers and sisters are resorting to suicide. They're resorting to taking dramatic actions and drastic actions for things that we just can't explain. There's always a silver lining to every dark cloud, but when you can't see that silver lining, and that's what's happening in our Muslim communities, it's been shadowed. It's been like, Muslims are very good at trying to camouflage the realities of what's going on. We kind of buffer it in a way of speaking, but it's been within homes, the gender-based violence, violence against women, abuse. One wouldn't think that there's abuse going on in our Muslim homes, but the abuse is gone terrible.
I mean, it was there before. GBV was there. But I think it's just gotten a whole lot worse because of COVID-19 and the types of frustrations and situations and challenges people are facing at this point in time.
Sorry, Maf. People don't know how to deal with this. You can lose a job and people say, okay, fine, you lost your job, that's fine. But how do you deal with multiple people, major breadwinners in a family, losing their jobs? Then you lose family members. Then, men are not used to, especially male folk, they're not used to sitting at home and having to deal with their wives. Wives are not used to men being in their space all the time. So there's clashes happening. Financial constraints, emotional constraints. They can't pay for school fees. They can't pay for things. They're losing their cars. They're losing their houses.
What sort of advice would you give them in order to be able to deal with this? I mean, we do understand that and this is the truth, every single household is facing some form of challenge or the other.
The best advice I can give to people is reground yourself to Almighty. because there is no solution if we cannot, often we say we need to resort to external resources for our sanity. Your sanity lies in your connection with Almighty. And that connection with Allah now, He's giving us this opportunity to connect with Him in such a profound way, where He's saying, you know what, now you need to know that I am the most important being that's going to see you through this. And if you hold my hand, I shall take you through this. So it's now to say, Ya Allah, we trust in you. We're trusting you now more than ever. And this is when our true faith, your iman comes into play, where you're going to say, it doesn't matter what I face. This is just a challenge, and I'm going to get through it as long as I hold Allah's hand and as long as I gravitate to Him all the time.
That is true, and it's about having that faith, and we speak time and again about that reconnection. And I think this is our way of grounding ourselves and reflecting on where we are and saying, is this what we want out of our lives, especially with the type of situations we're facing? I mean, as I said, GBV was not as rife, it was there. But in our Muslim communities, I mean, if you speak to counselors and life coaches like yourself, it's actually getting scary to see the types of figures that have increased over this period of time.
And the figures of divorce are increasing so much. Like people are like, I can't handle this man. I can't handle this woman. And what people are resorting to now, yes, the figures have been high, okay, but Islam, with Muslims, we haven't had that high figures. In comparison to others, races and nationalities and what have you, Islam has been a very stronghold religion. We've upheld our value system to the best of our abilities. But where divorces did take place, now it's like where couples just can't see eye to eye, and where instead of just maybe having an argument, it's gone to an extent of fists and blows. It's gone to the extent of name calling and judgments passed to the next person, all because of insecurity and anger.
That's true. And I think it's having to deal with that anger because, I always believe in one thing: when you're angry, you're not focused. Literally, your focus is completely gone. And then you can't find the necessary solutions to your issues as such.
Yes, especially, if you look at it in terms of the dynamics of Islam, Allah's put it so lovely, where He says one of His names is Noor, and another is Salam. So if we look at Salam and Noor, those are light and peace. And that is the two things that's being challenged most now, is your inner peace, which is your Salam, which is the name of Allah, of Salam, and your inner light. And where there's anger, there's darkness. So there cannot be Noor where there is darkness. You have to reconnect with the Noor of Allah to say, right now, I'm reigniting the light from within me. It's not my wife that is going to bring me peace, but I shall bring her peace. It's not my husband that shall bring me peace, or his responsibility is to bring calm and peace in the household. I shall be the driver of peace in my home. So, As-Salam needs to be like the fundamental name of Allah that we hold on to say, Ya Allah, I'm connecting to your peace, because if I resort to anger, that's just opposite to peace.
That's so true. I agree with you. What sort of advice would you give to parents? I mean, because the kids are also affected by the whole situation. And I think this is a lot of the time, we shed light on the adults and the types of difficulties and challenges they're going through, but not understanding that the children have been affected equally as much. I mean, through many different platforms, including having to now learn a different way with as far as education is concerned.
Children are, we assume, and it's been like, children are seen and not heard. That was the old way of thinking. And children are resilient, so they don't go through. I mean, what's the worst that a child is going to experience? They're going to go to school, they have to learn, they have to study, everything is provided for them. What stress do they have? But children are mentally fragile. They're still growing, they're developing their understanding of the world, they're developing their gravitational fields of the world. They're finding their footing. It's not easy to be a child. I think all of us would have done different if we knew different. So children are now looking to their parents, show me how to walk. And parents are like, I don't have the map to this way. But instead of trying to find your way through the maze, as you walk through the maze, if you hold each other's hands and say, you know what, I really love you. And I'm proud of you for having the courage to go through your life. We very often find parents don't say to their children enough that I really love you. Like, put the phone down, put your device down, look into your child's eye and say, I'm proud of you. I really love you and I'm really proud of who you've become and how you're handling everything. And if I could go back in life, I would want to relive life the way you are.
Mm. That is so true. How do we deal with the anxieties that the children are facing? Because, I mean, surely enough, that's also an issue as far as parenting is concerned. I think parents are not understanding how to deal with that anxiety levels that their children are experiencing. Are obviously having to learn in a new environment, stuck at home, not being able to do the things that they can do every other day. What sort of advice would you give them?
A child's anxiety stems a lot from the parent's energy. So if
Mm-hmm.
a parent, children don't learn from what you say. They don't learn in accordance to what you say. They learn in accordance to how you behave and what you do. They mirror you. They mirror you in every way and shape possible. So if you want to prevent anxiety in the child, you need to show them that fine, I lost my job. Fine, I don't, I work from home. This is all new to me, but I'm going to find a joyful balance in this. I'm going to see the joy in this and I'm going to embrace it. And I'm going to love that I have to be here now. The problem is in order to have anxiety, it's to say, I don't know what the future holds. When you have depression, it's because you can't deal with the past. When you have anxiety, you don't know how to deal with the present and the future. But if you live in the now, there's a book called Living in the Now, the now. So if you live in the now and there's nothing wrong in your life right now. In this moment, as I'm speaking to you, I have somewhere to sit. I have a device in my hand. My belly is probably full. We're preparing for
That's so
Ramadan, so the
cute.
belly is probably full.
Yeah, and I
So
like something we take so much for granted and not realizing that I think being grateful is the most important thing. But you were talking about children, and I think it's the time for parents to reflect. I know it's not difficult having to try and, of course, teach your child. It's a whole new environment and a whole new way of doing things. But if you look at it, it's actually that quality time that you don't normally get to spend with them every other day because they're also stuck in their routine of school and madrasa.
yes. Now imagine, I think we all would have longed for that moment with our parents where we could sit, instead of having lunch with your colleagues, you're having lunch with your kids. You're getting to know your kids. It's a rare opportunity. We got enough time to be the rat race people. But imagine you're getting to understand your child's mind. You're getting to learn them. You're getting to show them what fun things you can create, new things that you guys are going to have, like family things, family practices that you're going to do, like fun things. Play a couple of fun games. You can actually sit. We want to go out to do talim, but how about doing talim with our kids? We want to go out to learn the Quran. There's so many phenomenal stories on the Quran. NASA understands the Quran better than so many of us because NASA is using the Quran to reach phenomenal lengths. And, they're going out into
Right.
space and understanding every verse. So how about we learn it and say to our kids, I mean, let's explore the Quran. Now how much there is to learn in that. Wow, if I could sit with I sit with my kids and I tell them stories about the Quran and I tell them hadith stories and Islamic history is more fun for us in our family. So if you make history of Islam fun and you ground them so that they want to be Muslims and they're like, my mom was passionate about this and my dad was passionate. And during COVID, we're going to tell stories. This COVID is going to be storytelling time for future generations. And they're going to be telling stories. During this lockdown that we had, my dad used to sit with us and teach us these stories. And I'll never forget this Islamic story. This is
And
going to
it's
be a
creating
legacy
those
going forward.
memories.
We can either have,
Those are things that are going to stick with them in a good way. They're going to remember it for the rest of their lives. And I think that's an amazing way of actually reconnecting with your kids and, of course, reconnecting with your creator at the same time. So you're keeping in tap with both. I absolutely love the idea. Now let's get to the serious part of it. A lot of people have lost loved ones. through this COVID period. And it's maybe not just one or two. Some families have basically lost, I should say, I know of one family literally 10 members over a period of time. And I think that grieving process is very difficult, because having to lose one person alone is very traumatic. What sort of advice would you give them? How would they deal with something like this? Because, I think it's also very difficult because it's COVID. You don't get your closure. I mean, you're not getting to see the actual janaza leaving from your home as such.
Yes.
So I think it makes it all the more difficult, because people are trying to fathom it, to say, but this person was here, they were in the hospital, and now they're just not. So what sort of advice would you give them?
When we look at the whole concept of death, the concept of burial, the concept of the cycle of life, the norms of life have been broken. So the norm, the classic norm of there's a mayat, you're going to go and there's a mayat because he passed away from a heart attack. There's a mayat because he passed away from, pneumonia or bronchitis or asthma or something. Now we're having to deal with the fact that he passed away in a sudden, it was just sudden. It just happened. And like you say, 10 people in a family, 5 in a family. I know in my mom's family alone, from her father's and mother's side, last week, we alone had about 12 mayats.
Sure.
Alone from my mom. She just heard every day. I think her husband passed away on one day, the wife passed away the next day, the child passed away the next day, the aunt passed away the next. It was just every day. But what we need to ask is, Yalla, why do you want me to go through this path? Look at the plan of Allah, because oftentimes we think that, my God, we look at it from a worldly perspective. In order to deal with it, we're going to have to look at it from Almighty's plan perspective. Yalla, what strength do you want me to gather from this? What lesson do you want me to learn? And how strong do you want me to become from this? And then to surrender, to say, Yalla, we always say that the companion of life is death. Malik al-Maut is our only companion. And for those that have passed with COVID, and they, families that are going through all of this, to be able to say, Ya Allah, you had a plan for us, and I wish to surrender to that plan with ease.
Right.
And I shall not question that which you have destined for me. And I want to surrender, and I will be stronger in my iman, knowing that I could be next. To look at that and say, what have I not done? This is more a lesson of Allah waking up society to say, what have you not done? And stop living in the dark. Stop living in oblivion. He's waking and he's shaking up society like it's never been shaken.
It's about, I think it's a time, Allah is giving us this time to ground ourselves and reflect on our lives, to say, what have we done thus far with it? And how can we better it? And how much more value from a spiritual perspective and from a human being perspective, from our personalities and our traits and our deeds, can we better ourselves, as opposed to the material aspect of it? And I think that's what matters. What has happened is everybody had been caught up in the rat race of life, that I think sometimes you tend to forget those things that have the essence of life.
Yes. And, Allah is also saying to us, now, there are people that say that God is a God that wants you, life is a journey from God to God. And now he's saying to you, now you are learning more about me than you ever have. You are learning about my power now more than you ever have. You are gravitating to me. You are reflecting on yourself. Self-reflection now is becoming fundamental. You're asking yourself questions. What have I done? What haven't I done? What have I, am I in a position to say that Allah is pleased with me, so that tomorrow if I have to meet my maker, or now if I have to meet my maker, have I done right by him? And to say to your children that understand life.
What would you say to people about creating? I mean, it's a time now to pull together and having to create these support structures for each other. And I think that's what matters. So what is your take on that?
I love Allah's hand in this whole thing is so beautiful, because he's making people reconnect. I mean, there are families that have never connected for years because, there may have been a family feud that happened somewhere along the line. And now they're reconnecting, and we're reconnecting with those lost members of the family. We are finding out about our neighbors. There are people that I know that never even spoke to their neighbors. Now they're finding out about their neighbors. Now you're finding out about, giving in charity. Zakat is becoming so amazing. Social connections are becoming so fundamental. And, just that human connection is becoming even more stronger. We're realizing we need human beings because we've become so connected to a social media, your phones and everything, that now the human element is coming in, where, you're picking up a phone and you're speaking to somebody. Instead of
Mm,
WhatsApping everybody, you're picking up a phone and you're WhatsApp calling or video calling somebody. You're actually seeing someone's face now. There's
mm,
become over the last 5 to 6 years, the social media boom that happened just took people away. Everybody's sitting and typing, and now you're looking at people and they're focusing on the news, and even the kids know. There's a speech going on. The president is talking. Before the news was, so what? Now it's like the president is talking, and you're like, okay, let's listen to his speech. Or a Mulana is giving something that will help you to heal. We're listening and
mm,
we're looking at those messages. We're going to read the rules where, some of us never really read it from our hearts. Now you're like, yalla, I'm going to read it because it's going to prevent me from getting COVID. So, and society is handing out food, and, we're opening our doors to people in terms of, if someone is homeless or lost all their family, we are opening our hearts to people more than anything.
that is so true. What words would you like to leave us with this afternoon?
Nafisa, if there is this pandemic, then there is so much to learn from this pandemic. The
Mm,
lessons from this have been amazing. And, Allah is bringing us together as a society. It's almost as if He's waking us up. And for us to connect with each other is so amazing. And we
mm,
need to embrace this journey of reconnection, like you say, to Allah, to ourselves, to our families, to our children, and value every moment. It's not the stresses. If, by stressing, you're going to be able to solve a problem, then we're all stressed with you. If sleeping, you're going
mm,
to help yourself be happy in your sleep, then the bed should be your friend. But if by smiling, you're going to be able to create hope in somebody's heart, then learn to smile now. Test your
mm.
smile now more than you ever have.
You couldn't have said it better, because and I think the biggest lesson for us to learn is that life is short. So we need to take the opportunity of every moment and ask ourselves what it is that we can do to better ourselves and help others better themselves too.
Absolutely. Nafisa, and you guys are doing so well. It's such an honor to be part of Salam Media and talking to you. It's always fabulous talking to you. So, all the viewers of Salam Media, may Allah keep you healthy. May Allah keep you happy. And
Amen.
may Allah give you the wisdom to see His hand in what's happening with COVID.
Amen. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you sharing this important, should we say, words of value? Because the thing is, from the types of situations people have found themselves in, I think your words of inspiration has given them some food for thought this afternoon. And that's what we were looking to do, is just try and help them and motivate them and make them understand that they're not alone, that there's support structures out there like yourself. And if we create that as a team, we can move each other forward. Jazakallah so much. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And do
Only
take
a
care of yourself
pleasure.
and stay safe. Assalamu
You as
alaikum wa
well.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That was Sister Zaheera Kader giving us some insight into what is happening around the communities in our areas. But I think it's also about having to take wisdom from what is happening. And, she kind of course, turned the negative and looked at the positives in what we need to learn from it in order to move ourselves into better spaces and better places. We're going to go for a quick break, and we'll be back with you in a bit.